Hello folks, and welcome to another edition of It's Always Beeroclock. I'm Simon.
And I'm Mark, and behind the camera we have Sidekick Dave.
And today we're in sunny Marrickville at the Bob Hawke Beer and Leisure Centre.
You know, Simon, Bob Hawke is famous for having imbibed a yard of ale, 1.4 litres, in 11 seconds.
Wow, okay, well Sidekick Dave is banned from trying to match that record. You can beat it, you just can't match it.
Yeah. We're here with the co-founder of Hawke's Brewing, Nathan Lennon. G'day, Nathan.
Yeah, mate, how are you?
Very good indeed.
Good, welcome.
Thank you. Now, could you take us back to the sort of conception of Bob Hawke's Brewing?
Yes, it's a story I've told a million times. Look, Hawke's is a story that began in New York City, of all places. My co-founder and I used to work in advertising and in New York, had been living over there for a number of years. And just one day, a wave of homesickness just really overcame me, and I turned to him and I was just bemoaning the fact that I'd love to have just been back home right then. It was really cold in New York, it was hot back in Sydney, and I just asked him a question and we'd probably changed the course of our lives, and it was, if you could be back home right now having a beer with anybody, who would it be? And he turned to me and he said, "Oh mate, I've always wanted to have a beer with Bob Hawke." And I thought that was such a great answer. As children of the 80s who'd grown up in that era, but little people that felt the presence of a leader and the charisma of somebody like Bob in many ways helped define an era that we look back on, you know, really fondly, given it was our childhood. Always been particularly curious about that time in Australia and the growth of Australia, and I suppose even the brand of Australia. We're brand guys, so he'd also appeared at the cricket every year and doing his little party trick.
Here he comes. Go on, Bobby. Show us your technique. Here he goes. Simple. Doesn't sip it. He gets it down in one. Look how quick he is. Oh, hang on. He hasn't finished yet. He hasn't finished. Look at it. He hasn't finished yet. He's just having a little pause.
Oh, you've got to say it's a pretty poor effort, isn't it?
Well done, Bob. Great work. Super stuff, Bob.
Yeah.
Everyone knew that Bob loved a beer, and in his words, often a quick one.
That's where the inspiration came from. How did that actually get converted then into reality?
We essentially conceived the idea of it would be really interesting if Bob Hawke was at the forefront of his own beer company.
So you came up with the idea, you got Hawke on board, you had the brand, the concept, then you had to brew some beer.
Yeah, we did. We engaged a brewer and he put together a recipe for the first product, which is Hawke's Lager. Yeah, we won the trophy for the Best Australian Lager at the ARBAs in our first year, which was probably a massive fluke, to be honest, but...
Okay, and then there came a time when you were actually going to have your own production rather than Gypsy Brewing. Mm-hmm. So that started off here at these premises?
Yeah, so we eventually found the site in Sydney Street, Marrickville. And yeah, so that's when we got on board our full-time head brewer, Brodie French, and Brode's put together the entire brewery footprint, which is a mezzanine brewery. So if you come to Hawke's, we're on 2 floors, and there's the ground floor, which is half hospitality and the other half is our packaging and cold storage and whatnot. And on the second floor, overlooking that is the tanks upstairs.
Maybe you could briefly take us through the range of beers that you produce.
Yes, so Hawke's Lager's our kind of number one commercial SKU. There was no other way that we were even going to be able to launch this business unless we had a beer style that Bob Hawke understood and drank himself, so that was a bit of a given. Not too long after that, we released a pale, which is the Hawke's Patio Pale. And Bob didn't understand that one. He thought it was a bit fruity and questioned whether anyone was going to drink it. nevertheless, he trusted us and understood the economics around, the growth of pale at the time, and let us kind of put that out in the market. And I would say that's probably been fairly neck and neck with lager in terms of its popularity.
Yeah.
And then not too long after that, we released a mid-strength, which is fondly known as the Underdog. And the most interesting product, I think, in the core range that we'd probably introduced into the market is the half XPA. So it's not a mid, it's a half of a mid. So it's a half a standard drink in a tinny. Bring a 6-pack to a barbecue. 2 hours, you neck them all, you probably could still get in the car and drive.
Yeah.
We like to be able to measure our units, particularly as we get a little bit older and we have to drive cars around.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I think it enabled the brewers to deliver a product that definitely had that kind of the character of a beer.
Right.
We don't have the equipment to do non-alc. We take our hats off to anybody that can actually brew a non-alc that can fool people into thinking that it is a beer.
Yeah.
It's not something that I think we're ever really going to go down there, but we definitely liked the idea of something that just felt that it lent into that trend of moderation and wellness, but also something that can really kind of deliver on the profile and not really taste like a kind of watered down beer.
Mm-hmm. And do you give your brewers license to experiment or come up with seasonal beers, that sort of thing?
We do for the tap room.
Right.
Or the bar down here.
Yeah.
At any given time, there's probably like 3 or 4 limiteds or seasonals that are on tap, and it's really exciting when they come on, and we really enjoy it.
Now, I want to touch back on something that you mentioned earlier about doing good. I understand that some amount from each beer sold goes to land care, is that right?
That's right. So part of Bob's condition for coming on board and essentially giving us the blessing to start this company with us was that 100% of his royalties go to support Landcare Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And Landcare is an environmental organisation that he helped launch in 1989. It's an incredible organisation. They fund community-based projects all around the country. Lots of volunteer work. I think we're at probably just about $500,000 donated to date.
Yeah, I can see over $450,000. So you've had the tap room open here for 3 years. Yep. You've been in production here for around 4, but the brand's been around for longer than that. Yep. What are the plans for the next year or 2?
Good question. Keep doing what we're doing. But also, we're really curious about another venue.
Okay.
Not so much a brewery attached, but probably something a little bit that allows us to continue to tell the Hawke story to another part of Australia. The venues and obviously the Chinese restaurant Lucky Prawn, it really exceeded our expectations. It was really, really hard for us on the limited money that we had to spend on marketing to be able to accurately convey what we thought Hawke's was as a brand.
Yeah.
And building this guest experience at the Bob Hawke Beer and Leisure Centre, I think has been the clearest way that we've been able to express what the emotional part of the brand is. And for us, it's very much a feeling that I think we all feel at some point in our lives as Australians, and certainly growing up through that particular era. And it sort of hits you in the heart in a certain way and brings those feelings of nostalgia.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That sort of nostalgic feeling for those times. Yeah. You've really encapsulated that here. You've developed an identity here. It's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's certainly transformational for us. It took a while for us to actually, kind of create this physical space for people to enjoy. But yeah, the reward of that has been substantial, and I think maybe not just commercially, but I think from a cultural perspective, everybody that works here in both venue side and Hawke side is super proud to walk in here every day, and they get it. Even if they weren't around when we were around back in those days, they still feel it. It's really sweet.
All right, Nathan, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks, mate.
All the best.
Pleasure.
The wonder of the down under dog, let's all drink to Bob. It's a matter of colossal magnitude, as far as imperatively important that we do not confuse consumerism with the store and the packaging or the Trade Practices Act regarding the price justification tribunal to eradicate the giant schizophrenic capitalist nation.
Why do you use such big words, Mr. Hawke?
To combat global inflation. And drink to Bob. The wonder of the down under dog, let's all drink to Bob. You guys have to fill up your column into some end.
We're here at the Bob Hawke Beer and Leisure Centre with Trevor. G'day, Trevor.
G'day, Mark. How are you? It was Mark, you said?
That's right. That's right, mate. Have you been here before?
Yes, I'm a regular. I work just around the corner at a local manufacturing business.
Okay. You've been here many times. Do you have a favourite drop here?
Yeah, I like the lager.
Oh, the lager. That is their sort of original beer, and it sort of stood the test of time.
So I'm not an expert on beer. I sort of
keep working on it.
I'm working on it. I'm a late comer to beer, and only when moving to Marrickville actually I started drinking beer, because you can't come to the place without smelling brewing and the hops and you just can't. So, and everyone, all the local brewers are just great. So I do. This is one of the ones I've been introduced to, and really I haven't found one I haven't liked yet.
Okay. Well, cheers, Trevor. Nice talking to you.
Nice to meet you too, Mark.
We're here with Chris. Good afternoon, Chris.
Yeah, good afternoon. Nice
Chris,
to meet you.
Have you been to this brewery before?
No, first time.
First time? And what are you trying?
Just the red IPA.
Red IPA?
Yes.
We really like that. What do you think?
It's good in texture and really good in flavour as well. So probably one of my favourites.
Okay. Do you normally go for that style of beer?
Yes.
You do?
I normally go for the darker ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, Chris.
No problem.
Enjoy your afternoon. We're here in Marrickville with Oscar from South America.
Yes, that's correct.
Mate, have you been to this brewery before?
A couple of times, yes.
Okay. And do you have a favourite beer here?
The XPA.
That's what I'm having.
Yeah, same for us. Cheers. Salud.
Salud.
Yes.
That'll do. That'll do. Steve, what are you drinking today?
Pale ale today.
Pale ale? And is that your normal go-to style of beer?
I reckon a lager is more my normal go-to style.
Okay.
But she said she wouldn't want it a pale ale.
Okay.
So I said, well, I'll have one as well.
All right. So, Kath, you're having a pale ale. And what's your assessment of it?
It's lovely. Fresh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I see you're also having something from the Lucky Prawn restaurant. How's the food here?
Oh, it's exceptional.
Really? We'll have to try something, I think.
Yeah.
So you got some dumplings there? And
we've got
spring
some
rolls?
dumplings and some spring rolls.
Very good. Okay, well, enjoy your evening, folks.
Yeah, but before...
All right, guys. We've had an enjoyable afternoon here at the Bob Hawke Beer and Leisure Centre. Dave, your thoughts?
Well, this is probably one of the most iconic places we've been to. Thematically, it just oozes Bob Hawke, which is what they're trying to do. Everything from the Chinese meals, the dark wood panelling, for those who visit, they've got to go to the cool room for all the iconography out there. It's a shrine. So the place is just a mecca. The beers, I think it's probably not a beer nerd place for those with eclectic beer tastes. I think they probably are more targeting the broad masses, the lagers and things like that. I've tried about 5 different beers today. I must say the red and the dark ale were excellent, and also the session, which was more like a lager. So they were pretty good. But I do think that they are catering for a broader appeal, and they've done it so well.
Thank you, David. Simon?
I have to disagree with Dave. I don't think you can get a beer in Mecca, but but I will agree that it is a fantastic place. It's very well kitted out. There's a giant prawn above the restaurant where you can get a succulent Chinese meal, and I think the beers are all very serviceable and very enjoyable. My favorite, I think, was the red IPA, and the dark ale was a close second, and a close third was the Hawke's Lager. Mark.
Thank you, Simon. Well, as you both said, the place is sort of quite unique. It's a temple dedicated to Bob Hawke and everything of the era of his prime ministership. I think the food offering is clever because almost every brewery has the barbecue, pizza, burger sort of thing, and some of them do them quite well. But here you get the 1970s style Aussie Chinese, and it's a gimmick, but it works. Beer-wise, as David said, the beers are not out there. They're trying to make beers that appeal to the maximum number of people, and they're quality beers, so there's no question of that. I like the red IPA, which is not in the core range. Of the core range, the XPA was my favourite. But until next time, boys, remember, it's always Beeroclock.
When the evening's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the people's strength of one? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
And drink some Bob Hawke. The wonder of the down under dog. Let's all drink to Bob Hawke.
You must never give up, do you?
The wonder of the down under dog. Let's all drink to Bob Hawke.
Side there.
I love you. I love you.